Today, how's everything going for you? Hi. Hello everyone. I Wonder Why. And welcome to this podcast series, which always begins with the question, why? Based on the first principle thinking method. This approach gives you a multidimensional perspective on various issues in life, helping you cultivate a truly mindful and fulfilling life. Join us in this episode where we dive deep into a familiar story. All children, except one, grow up. And that one child who never grows up is Peter Pan. With the appearance of a 12 to 13-year-old boy, like many other children, Peter Pan always seeks to play and enjoy life around him. Peter refuses to grow up, refuses the world of adults, with all its rules, responsibilities, and even its pains. He immerses himself in laughter, games, and endless adventures, as if growing up would make all the magic disappear. He has his companions, the Lost Boys, and the cute fairy Tinker Bell. By chance, he befriends 3 darling children, Wendy, John, and Michael. With the joy of youth, he teaches them how to fly and takes them to his magical land, Neverland. In this land, the darling children witness an array of wonders, much like entering a fairy tale world. There are native people, wolves, mermaids, and even pirates, things they thought they could only encounter in stories. But sometimes, in the real world, where there's no fairy dust or pirate ships, we still encounter people like Peter Pan. They're grown-ups with polished appearances, possibly working in an office, in love, living in bustling cities. But deep inside, they have a child who has never grown up. A child who's been hurt, a child who's afraid, a child still searching for their own Neverland to escape the harshness of reality. So, in today's podcast episode, let's explore the question, why doesn't Peter Pan grow up? We'll dive into the human psyche, where these adult children need to be understood and healed. Is it possible to grow up while keeping a part of your inner child? Let's get started. Why doesn't Peter Pan grow up? Initially, I thought it's because in Neverland, no children grow up. Neverland is a brilliant paradise of colours and light. According to Peter Pan's directions, to get to this magical land, all you have to do is take the second right at the intersection, then head straight toward Dornan, unclear direction. But that's enough to help us understand that this land can only exist in the minds of children. Barrie, the author of Peter Pan, explains this vague map by asking, have you ever seen a map of a person's mind? Doctors sometimes draw maps of your body parts, and they can be fascinating. But try asking them to draw a map of a child's mind. Not only will it confuse them, but it will also leave them trapped in circles. There are winding roads on that map, and they could be paths on the island because Neverland is always an island with astonishing, shifting colours. How do the children get to Neverland? All they need is a little fairy dust and joy. Surrounding this magical world are vast forests and towering mountains with mysterious creatures that only Neverland has. For John Darling, in this land there's a swamp with a flock of flamingos flying by, and John shoots one with his carbine. Meanwhile, his younger brother, Michael, sees a flamingo flying over a swamp. In this paradise, people don't use clocks like in the real world. Instead, they rely on crocodiles, the sun, and the moon. The children have no homework, no parents nagging them. They can play freely and, most importantly, they can stay the age they are forever. Therefore, Neverland is a dreamland for children who love to play, fly, and live forever in their childhood. The magical things in this enchanted land make us truly believe that children will never grow old when they arrive in Neverland. But the truth isn't as simple as that. In the original version of Peter Pan, the Lost Boys do grow up, even in Neverland. The Lost Boys are a group of mischievous children who follow Peter Pan. They're children who fell out of their cribs when the nanny wasn't paying attention, and if no one finds them during the day, they drift to Neverland. So most of them have little or no memory of their parents. According to Peter, there are only lost boys in Neverland, no lost girls. The girls are too clever to fall out of their cribs. Unlike Peter Pan, the lost boys can grow up. The number of lost boys in Neverland fluctuates because they can be harmed by pirates or wild animals, and whenever they start growing up, Peter Pan takes them out. The original text says, "The boys on the island vary, of course, in numbers, according as they get killed and so on, and when they seem to be growing up, which is against the rules, and Peter takes them out." So, Peter is the only one who never grows up. Why is that? In fact, Peter refused to grow up. He is the only child who holds an unwavering belief. He believes in Neverland and in his own imagination. He wants to stay a child, not because he wants to have fun forever, but because he's scared of it. In both Peter Pan and Peter Pan in Kensington Gardens, children are likened to birds, and happy thoughts make them fly. Peter discovered this, and like any other child, he flew with the birds in the sky. Most children eventually catch fire and fly back to their parents. But Peter was braver. He stayed there long enough that when he returned, the window was closed, and his parents had seemingly forgotten about him. He decided that if the grown-ups didn't care about him, he wouldn't grow up either. The moment Peter went home and realized his parents didn't want him anymore, that was the motivation for him to vow never to grow up. The other children didn't make such a vow, they just got lost and were picked up by Peter. To Peter, adults are dry, serious, busy, and cold. They've forgotten how to dream, forgotten how to play, forgotten the little things that once made them happy. Therefore, Peter chose to refuse to grow up so he could keep flying freely in Neverland. When I was younger and still believed in magic, I used to dream of living in Neverland like that. But it wasn't until later that I realized Neverland is not a paradise at all. It's a refuge for forgotten children, children no one looks for, siblings no one remembers. If you look at all the descriptions of Neverland above, you might see it that way too. A land created from imagination and a child's refusal to face reality. It's a child who wasn't embraced, so they had to create a world of their own to survive. When we step into the real world, it's not hard to find people like Peter Pan. From a literary symbol, the concept of Peter Pan gradually became a term in psychology. Psychologist Dan Kiley was the first to coin the term Peter Pan syndrome in 1983 to describe people who are physically grown but still behave like children. It's worth noting that Peter Pan syndrome is not an official disorder in mental health diagnostic standards, but it is a symbolic term that helps explain the behaviours and emotions of people who are grown-up children. So, who exactly is a Peter Pan? It could be a man in his 30s with a job that brings in a steady income but still lives with his parents, letting them take care of everything from meals to utility bills. He dates a lot but is afraid of marriage, always justifying that he's not ready yet. Or it could be a young woman who always dreams of a perfect Prince Charming, coming to rescue her from the boring reality. When she enters a relationship, she demands love like a child, but becomes easily hurt and withdraws when faced with challenges. Or it could be a middle-aged man who constantly talks about his painful childhood, using the past as an excuse to avoid change. This person is always seeking care, asking others to understand him, but never taking responsibility for his own feelings. Common signs of Peter Pan syndrome may include avoiding responsibility and commitment, fearing being tied down in relationships, lacking emotional control, easily getting upset like a child, lacking long-term goals, procrastinating on making decisions, and being emotionally, financially, or mentally dependent on others. So, what causes Peter Pan syndrome? No one is born a Peter Pan. Often, inside someone who refuses to grow up is a child who has been hurt and has never healed. The causes of Peter Pan syndrome usually stem from childhood, and they silently form in the early years of life. The first reason is childhood insecurity. Children who grow up in high-pressure environments, where love is given conditionally, emotions are suppressed, and achievement is worshipped, often have to learn to become adults too soon. Instead of being a child, they become people pleasers. And when they reach adulthood, the part of them that's still a child fights back, demanding space. This leads to refusing to move forward. Maturity is no longer a process of development, but becomes the fear of losing themselves again.